Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Hey.
And this is the Two Nerds Podcast. If you want to hit the like button, that'd be cool. If you want to subscribe, if you haven't already, that'd be groovy. Share the video with your friends. That's way more fucking important. And of course, if you could patronize Super Blizzard, his Shining was on a track, Let's Get Hardcore. That's our theme music. He gave it to us.
Patronize in the classical sense of give money in exchange for his works, not patronize in the modern sense of act like a douchebag to him.
Yeah. Oh, your games are great. Your songs about wrestling are just fantastic. Don't do that.
They are, though. That's not patronizing him. That'd be like just complimenting him in a shitty voice.
I guess. Whatever. It wasn't even a good patronize. That was just like sarcasm. It would be like, oh no, your songs are great. Yeah. But I don't think I can't sound sarcastic right now.
It's been a day, listener.
I digress. Let's get into it. Today we're talking about Avengers: The Age of Ultron.
Yes, or for people who have working tongues and lips, Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Mine were stolen by a phantom force. We just saw the movie today. If you remember last week and I was like, man, shit got out of whack. Well, we unwhacked shit. And so we went to see the film. And, let's go ahead and do the spoiler-free version.
Yeah, this was better than the first Avengers. This was a really, really good movie. I would recommend you see it, obviously. And I would say that what few problems there were with the first Avengers were fixed pretty handily in this movie.
Yeah, the film had its issues, but it was...
They were new and different issues.
Well, and they weren't really... Like, okay, if you were going to take umbrage with the issues this film had, stop watching films, because you're never going to be happy.
Yeah, because nothing's perfect.
No, and this was far from like my favorite movie or anything, but it was good.
Yeah, it was definitely good. It was definitely a good flick, and I would say, and this is high praise coming from me because I really like the Avengers. It was definitely better than the first Avengers.
I agree entirely. It fixed the problems the Avengers had, and I would say, for me personally, I think it was on par with Winter Soldier.
I don't know. I think I have to watch it again because I've seen Winter Soldier a couple times. I feel like, to be fair, I need to watch Age of Ultron again to make that decision. I think we can both say, however, it's not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, fuck no.
Yeah. So that's your metric. About as good as Winter Soldier, maybe a little better, maybe not quite a little better. I wouldn't go so far as to say worse. I would say...
Oh, no. That's not...
Just different.
Yeah. Very different tonally and all that shit.
Not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy. That's your rubric to judge by. Go from there. That's about as far as we can go without spoiling.
Well, we could get into shit, but really, if you don't want spoilers, then that's all you really want to hear. Yeah. So let's give you all the customary 5 seconds of silence-ish. That was not a pig squeak toy for a dog. That was Squeak Toy the boy and the noise he made with his burp throat.
Yes, I ate right before the podcast because I didn't want to eat on the podcast.
I've just got this image of you sitting on top of the YouTube video, like on the screen, but on top of the actual video, just enjoying a big ol' hoagie.
If you could pull that off.
For some reason, animated in the style of the Kevin Smith cartoons.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Yeah. I don't know why, but there you are.
And now you have that word picture, listener.
There you go. I'm not drawing the fucking thing. Age of Ultron. I want to see it again, too. And I think the biggest reason is because I feel like I should like this movie more, and I don't. I like it, I just feel like I should like it more.
You feel like the movie deserves to be liked more, and you just...
By me, specifically. And I'm just not quite making that connection. I had a fun time.
Yeah.
It was really great to sit through. There were no pacing issues. It was enjoyable from start to finish. Lots of funny lines. I laughed. I gasped. I yahed.
Yeah, it was even some good emotional moments.
Sure.
Honestly. I really like a lot of the character development they put in this movie. It was a much more personal movie. It was, I mean, they saved the world because they're the Avengers. They do that. But overall, it felt like a more personal movie. How best to get started? Because, I mean, just running down the plot point by point doesn't seem like a very interesting
No,
podcast.
that's stupid. Watch the fucking movie. You're gonna watch the fucking movie. You're not listening to this podcast if you're not gonna watch the fucking movie. Or if you haven't already watched the fucking movie. We don't need to explain it.
So, then let's get into the big spoiler. The big, at least as far as I'm concerned, the big spoiler.
Pepper Potts isn't in the movie.
No, that's not a big spoiler. It's a little.
She's not there.
It's a little spoiler.
I don't even really like the character. She was cool in Iron Man 3.
Pepper smash. But the big spoiler. They killed Quicksilver.
Quicksilver.
I mumbled the word.
They killed Civ HD. I'm gonna miss his streams and his videos. I'm so sad.
But they killed Quicksilver. They killed Pietro Maximoff. I mean, it's comic books and thus comic book movies.
And there is a Scarlet Witch right there.
Yeah, there's a Scarlet Witch literally right there. That's kind of what she does. And there's even something someone pointed out on the internet that I think might have been foreshadowing him coming back. There's a point in the movie where Captain America's given one of his big Captain America speeches, and he says, "If you get hurt, hurt him back. If you get killed, walk it off." And exactly when he says that, they just jump cutted to Quicksilver. This is before he dies, obviously. If you get killed, walk it off. Cuts to Quicksilver.
Yeah, otherwise Captain America would be a dick.
Yeah.
If you're dead, walk it off. I'm talking to you, Deddy Dederson, Deddy Roosevelt. And he like nudges him with his toe. Walk it off. Hawkeye's like, Cap, oh my god. Dude, chill the fuck out. Language.
Oh, that was a good running gag, too.
Yeah, that was good.
But that was a bold move. Not the most popular move, from what I understand.
You know, and I feel like this even more solidifies what we said about Daredevil. And I will dance around the spoiler in case you haven't watched Daredevil yet. There was a death in that show. And we said that was kind of stupid.
Because it didn't accomplish anything.
No. And the things it accomplished could have been served in other ways. But, as I said at the time, if it had been something that happened in a movie, I would have been okay with it.
And this is exactly the same caliber of... I mean, there's no real reason that Pietro had to die there. It wasn't really necessary for future character development.
I think it might give Scarlet Witch some character development.
I think it might also...
It also removes, like a counterforce in the obvious relationship they want to pursue with Vision.
Because Vision and Scarlet Witch are a thing. I mean, it does, but the counterforce might be interesting, and Pietro was a cool character.
Yeah, he was really cool.
There's not really a great reason to kill him off, but...
I really thought they were going to kill Hawkeye, and I was going to be kind of pissed about that.
That was actually the intent.
To make me think they were going to kill Hawkeye?
Yes.
That's good.
And then have him saved at the last minute by Quicksilver and kill Quicksilver. That was Joss Whedon's whole plan.
Well played, Mr. Whedon.
He was like, my first idea was to kill Quicksilver, and I was gonna play it to the hilt. I was gonna do every possible cliche that I could get away with to make you think that I was gonna kill Hawkeye, and then change out at the last minute. And he said that he was sure someone from higher up would come to him and be like, "No, we signed this guy on for like many more movies, and he's very pretty. Can you please not kill him?" And then he was gonna change it out to be Hawkeye if he had to. But if he didn't have to, he wasn't gonna. And Disney knows how to run, and Marvel knows how to run their shit, so he didn't get shit on.
Yeah.
He got to keep his idea. So he played up everything. You see Hawkeye's family. He talks before he leaves his family to go to the final battle about how this is, they were talking about how he fixes up the house a lot. This is my last project, I promise. Which is like code for my last mission, which is code for I'm totally dying.
His wife even looks at him like, "You're totally dying."
They talk about how he's a normal dude. a couple times throughout the
It's
movie.
a big focal point. It's his plot, basically.
He's the only Avenger who gets really injured at any point during the movie, aside from Pietro.
They all get their asses a little.
They get
kicked.
their asses a little kicked, but he's the only one who needs serious medical attention.
Yeah, I suppose.
And he's at a point he even says, "We're fighting an army of robots, and I have a bow and arrows. None of this makes sense."
that was epic.
That was a great line. But they really sell that he's going to have to make a heroic sacrifice, and they even give him the obvious child trapped down a well heroic sacrifice. And then they swerve you, and it's a really good swerve.
Yeah. It was good. I'm not, in terms of comics, I'm not fond of Quicksilver in general. And I will say that this is the Quicksilver I've liked the most out of every Quicksilver ever.
You know what? I can agree with that, because it's not on the level of Tony Stark. It's not the absolute dichotomy that is, I love Tony Stark in the movies, and Tony Stark in all comics media is the world's biggest doucher. Quicksilver is just kind of a dick. Pietro's never bad enough to be really, really hard to read.
But like every time he shows up for me, it's like
oh,
Quicksilver.
Fucking Quicksilver has to be here, really?
I'd almost rather have the Flash. No, I wasn't serious. Keep him away.
He does not like the Flash.
I do not like the Flash. I do want to see the Flash TV series though. That looks pretty good.
But that's just, and this guy was charming. He was funny. He also had kind of game breaker powers in that he did really well against all the Avengers.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point in it.
Yeah. He got to sock Captain America right in the moosh.
Yeah, right in the mush. But what I liked about this film, beyond from a technical standpoint, which is really all I've said so far, it was technically good, was that it had a lot of stuff from characters that were my Avengers. I don't know if you guys listened to the last Avengers podcast. If not, we did one. You should go check it out, because the contrast, in my opinion anyway, is going to be pretty fucking interesting. But when I was growing up, I didn't, the comic books and the media I absorbed, I didn't really get a lot of Tony Stark and Captain America and Thor.
Well, I mean, you probably got Captain America because the Avengers team with Scarlet Witch and the Vision and
well, he was there, but like
he was like the leader. He was
he was off doing something else or whatever the situation. The issues of comics I had were Cap light. And the stuff that I got into focused more on Hawkeye and Vision, and and War Machine. I liked War Machine a lot. And
hey, side note, I just want to point this out because we've mentioned this before on the podcast. Just so we're clear, DC, Fox is the ones who owns the rights to the Fantastic Four movie, right?
yeah,
okay. Contrast between Fox and Marvel. Marvel maybe felt that they could use a little more diversity in their main Avengers cast. So they got some actual black superheroes and put them in the main Avengers cast.
yeah.
Please do more of that. At the end of the movie, the Avengers cast is Captain America, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch. I can finally say that.
Yeah.
Yay. Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, and Falcon.
And someone else was there. Wasn't someone else there?
I don't think so. I think it was just those guys. Oh, Vision.
Oh yeah, Vision. Yeah.
So, let's see. 2 ladies, 1 white dude, 2 black dudes, and a robot.
Yeah. That sounds like 2 guys, a girl, at a pizza place.
That's much more diverse, and also has my demographic, robots.
Yeah. But it's existing characters. And it's characters I've died to see committed to film.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that portrayal of War Machine.
Oh, he's got some great moments. Yeah, he's got some great moments in this film. But yeah, that was more my Avengers. I was with the B team or whatever, and it was really great to see them focused on, to see them get a lot of play. I wasn't surprised, but I was disappointed when Hawkeye in the first Avengers was just, dude, bro.
I love that
dude, Bo.
I love that he's much more Hawkeye.
Yeah, he's fucking Hawkeye in this one. It excited me. I was very pleased by that. And I was glad to see Vision, and he was Paul Bettany.
And Paul Bettany's really good in like everything.
Yeah, so I wasn't mad
I've
about that.
always loved Paul Bettany in everything I've ever seen him in. That's not even a joke.
We haven't seen Priest, to be fair.
I bet I'd love him. I don't like the movie, but I'd like him in it.
Hey, there you go.
All right. Okay. I need to say this. This is also unrelated, but I'm super glad they didn't actually have Ultron break Captain America's shield, because I would have been nerd mad about that.
Well, but like he was pretty much made of vibranium at the end, so
Yeah.
that was reasonable.
Like they made it so it would have been reasonable because he had made it. He had like added vibranium bits to his current exoskeleton.
Well, the last one that took over was just vibranium, as I understand it.
Yeah, it was mostly vibranium or like just vibranium or something like that. It was really cool looking, and at the end, Scarlet Witch breaks that shit. She like bends it out of the way and yet rips out his little robot heart because he killed her brother, and she's very mad. Which is fine because Scarlet Witch has the juice to fuck up vibranium.
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch can take. Scarlet Witch could honestly, if she had broken Captain America's shield, I wouldn't have been mad because Scarlet Witch has that kind of power.
Yeah, she fucks with probability. That's not the way they described it in the film, but you and me, us comic nerds, we know what she do. I like Scarlet Witch. I'm not super fond of her. It's not like Squirrel Girl or anything, but I like her more than Carol Danvers, for example. And all the talk of people were rallying for a female based solo Marvel film, Scarlet Witch never popped into my mind.
Well, and you know what? I bet you I can tell you why. She's never alone.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
It's either they're always Scarlet Witch and Vision, or Scarlet Witch and Pietro.
Yeah, but I think she's got enough personality to pull off a solo
that was a good
film.
portrayal.
Oh yeah, that acting was great.
The guy who played Quicksilver was good. The chick who played Wanda. That's her name.
Yeah.
It took me a second because I know her as the Scarlet Witch. She was good.
She had a good look. Like I was just very happy with all the decisions made there. That was just really cool. Seems like there was something else I wanted to touch on in that vein before I got to the other thing.
There's another thing. But first, there's a thing, complete nerd nitpicking. In the movie, when I was watching the movie, it was super cool. After watching the movie, when I got away from it, Vision picking up Thor's hammer was a little weird.
Well, no, it makes sense because he and Ultron are like the yin and yang of the Mind Gem.
Yeah, and he's the good twin.
He is nothing but hope and dreams,
and he was like just born right then, so he hadn't had enough time to accumulate baggage
at all.
Which is what little baggage Captain America had, is what kept him from picking up the hammer, I imagine.
All the way.
Yeah.
I love Thor like, whoa.
Thor like, and then it didn't move. It was like, okay, cool.
But, I mean, to be fair, in the comics, there have been times when Deadpool has had the hammer, and as cool as that is, what the fuck is he doing with it?
I choose to believe that was Mjolnir also seeing past the fourth wall and just thinking it'd be real funny. But, you know why I'm fine with it, ultimately? Because he exhibits the exact same properties of the exact same things that let, like, Robo-Thor pick up the hammer.
Sure.
It's just that the artificial mind has a kind of purity of purpose that makes it real easy for them to be worthy.
Well, and, I mean, it even could be, like they were talking about with the whole elevator thing.
Elevator's not worthy.
Yeah, but it still moves the hammer.
Like, you think he maybe just thought it counted it as a robot?
Well, I think if you're still nitpicky about it, you can be like, well, also, he's a machine. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I could be. But no, I choose to believe it was just he was worthy. It's just a little jarring once I was away from the movie. But in the movie, you don't notice.
Well, I mean, it is jarring within the movie, but in the right way.
Yeah, it's exactly how you need it to be.
Yeah.
Also, it's exactly how the Avengers need to be, because that's the best recommendation right there.
Yeah.
Mjolnir, trust him. Okay.
And the writing is really good in this one. There's not... Yeah, there's a couple of odd lines, but nothing real bad.
Honestly, when they go bad, it's not that it's bad, it's that it's tropey.
I don't know if tropey is the right word. I think, trite.
I don't want to go that negative.
Well, I suppose that does have negative connotations. It's pulpy?
Yeah, pulpy.
Pulpy.
It's very pulpy. It's comic book dialogue. When it's bad dialogue, it's comic book dialogue. And it's not even bad, just doesn't fit.
Yeah, I think this is probably the right... let's sandwich it. Let's make the compliment sandwich. And much like with my thoughts on the first Avengers movie, this isn't really a negative, something that I'm mad about. This is the thing I mentioned in our little preamble that kind of detracts from it the most, and that was the Black Widow Hulk romance.
Yeah, and I just disagree with you.
Well, no, and please allow me to espouse my thoughts, because I think you're disagreeing with other people on the internet. I understand it, and it's built well, and I recognize that Nat is a different character than Sweet, Sweet Black Widow. But, And it might owe a lot to Scarlett Johansson's acting, either in that she is a good actress and she's playing an emotionless killer who is having a hard time with gushy dialogue, or in that she's a bad actress and is having a hard time with gushy dialogue. I don't know which it is.
It's the first one. Scarlett Johansson's an amazing actress.
I haven't seen her in much, but I don't know what...
She's playing someone deeply uncomfortable with being mushy in a weird situation that she's not used to. She comes across a little awkward, because this is an awkward situation.
Sure.
And she's dealing with the skittish rabbit of the Avengers.
It doesn't feel inorganic. It makes sense. There's never a point when that was happening and I was like, I don't buy this. I questioned why, from a writer's standpoint, we really needed this. But, I mean, that's the perfectionist in me. That's not...
We needed it for the exact reason you had a problem with Black Widow before. We needed to give her a character.
Oh, yeah.
She has more than female badass now. She has a backstory which pays a lot of, respect to her comics backstory. It explains who she was. That way it makes how she became who she is, which is a very different person, and the struggle she has there more interesting. It humanizes her, because up until now, Black Widow was kind of a Mary Sue.
Yeah, I don't know about Mary Sue, but
really
two-dimensional.
She didn't really have faults or flaws.
Yeah.
Even the flaws she had weren't really flaws so much. She's kind of a bitch. Well, that's intentional. It's not a flaw. She's going for that and hitting it. When she was, kind of cold. That's useful. Loki got under her skin. Not really. She was just playing him. She didn't really have flaws before. This gave her emotion flaws. This gave her the ability to be a person.
Right. Well, and again, let me take this back and remind both you and the listener, I'm not saying I hated this part of the movie. It sucked. I'm saying if there was a part of the movie I would have tweaked, it would have probably been that.
Well, what would you have done? Assuming you wanted to keep the same storyline, how would you have differentiated it?
That's really hard for me because I don't know who this character is.
That's true, because we're still learning about Natasha. We're still learning about Nat. Natty by nature isn't working. And
I don't mean to sound like, no, she's different. She is different. She's not the double agent. This is this is post-baggage Black Widow.
Yeah, this is once she got her shit kind of together and just sort of... This is Black Widow in comics now.
Yeah, and I don't read comics right now. Not religiously, anyway.
And I don't mean no, this is Black Widow in comics just about now.
And it's good. She's a fine character. The more I can distance her from the Black Widow of yore, the more I'm comfortable with her. But she's a mysterious entity. You asked me what I would do differently, and I'm not sure because I don't understand this character. And, maybe good play to Joss Whedon on that because she's supposed to be a mystery.
She's supposed to be a bit enigmatic, which is... It's part of her character, and I enjoy it, actually. You got some more glimpses into who she is and how she feels and what her baggage is.
I think I would have made, like a minute or two longer, the scene between her and Banner in the farmhouse. Just so that some of that dialogue wasn't quite so narmy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair criticism.
Heavy-handed, for those of you out there who don't trope.
No, you're right. Of all the dialogue in the movie that was comic book dialogue, that was the worst.
And
that was the most comic booky.
There was specifically one little back and forth exchange about their whole sterility thing that was weird and rushed and like way too honest and oversharing for two characters who are more guarded.
See, that's the thing. It's too honest and oversharing for Widow, I think.
Yeah, Bruce was fine.
Bruce is very honest and like he's not very guarded, to be honest. He's very wary, but not about emotional stuff.
Well, and he didn't really react, and I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I would say that scene has a couple issues. I'm not against the scene. I don't think it was bad either.
No.
It's just any scene that you might want to give maybe an extra minute or two to just let it.
And I don't even know if it needs to be that much, really. Just
give it an extra couple lines, something to unpack it. Break the tension a little bit.
I would have given that another pass.
Yeah, but
that's really all I can criticize.
That's incredibly nitpicky.
Yeah, it is, and I want to make clear that that's how I feel about the situation. I don't mind that they have this sort of thing. It makes sense. It makes sense given everything that happened in the first movie.
It makes sense given their stated reasons in this movie.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
It works really well. There's a line that I think really sells it, helps set up the whole romance thing, and sells a lot about the two characters you're dealing with when Black Widow says something along the lines of, all my friends are fighters, and of all of them, you're the one who will always run away from the fight because you know you'll win.
Which I liked that. I've been that, so that kind of spoke to me. Not in an actual physical fight. Well, no, actually kind of in an actual physical fight, because I don't fight for fight, I fight for murder. So I try not to fight because I get giant and green.
It's weird, he does. I think I'm calling him like the lump, maybe?
Oh no, that's actually probably really good, given my dimensions. Anything else I could really criticize? Lack of a lighthearted post-credit scene was a little... They had the mid-roll thing with Thanos. That was pretty cool, but we could have used a little lighthearted
post-credit scene. Could have used some shawarma. But at the end of the movie, they all the Avengers, all the the first crew, except for Widow and Captain, arguably the Widow, Captain, and Hawkeye. No, even Hawkeye went home to his wife.
Yeah,
kids.
He was like, "Fuck this."
I'm gonna go home, hug my wife, and be a dad to my kids. His new son, Nathan Pietro Barton. Kid's middle name is Pietro. It's a classy move. Classy move, Clint. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of other things to criticize about the movie, other things that I thought could have used some work. I know this movie was already super long, but I feel like a little more time wouldn't have gone awry. The pacing was really good, though.
Yeah, the pacing was really good.
I don't know that wouldn't fuck it up.
I think it's more that, and this is really, honestly, the mark of a good film, there are certain characters and certain scenes that I wanted to spend more time with. Not because I felt that they were deficient for the amount of time they spent, barring the one we just mentioned, but because, yeah, cool stuff's happening. I wish I could see more of this.
I really like that fight at the end where they're all protecting the MacGuffin, as it were, from the army of robots, and that was very well done. Because it was a comic book fight. Everybody had their moment. Vision was laser beaming people. Yeah. Everyone had a really good shining moment. I Really love a lot of the action scenes. They were well done. They were usually very clear, easy to understand what was going on.
Unless, like, there was shit falling. Like, they used shit falling as a mask for hardcore violence instead of,
Shaky cam.
yeah, shaky cam, which I appreciated. The stuff I could have used a little more of was, it's going to be a segue. Are you ready, kids? Get on your Paul Blart Mobile. The conversations between Tony Stark and Bruce Banner regarding Vision and Ultron.
I just remembered a really good line.
Yeah, so
You just roll over and show your belly anytime someone growls. Only when I've made a murder bot.
Yeah, but those conversations they had, those ethics conversations, they were so interesting, and the actors were doing them so well. Dude, I was not sure about Mark Ruffalo when I first saw the Avengers. I was like, I don't know. But, like, within an hour of seeing it, I was like, he's okay. And he's only grown on me since.
Because he's amazing.
Yeah, he's just great in the role. But that, and here's that segue. I could always, always, always use more Ultron. This Ultron is amazing.
Yeah.
I love charismatic villains. He's got great monologues. He's got great dialogue. He has good one-liners. He's got good pathos and motivations.
And reasoning.
Yeah, and reasoning. He's just a very sound, tight, well-written character. Smooth lines, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the delivery is fantastic. And coupled with the visuals, just creates this little masterpiece of a thing sitting on top of
a very good movie.
A very good movie. I was going to make some sort of cake reference, but thank you for saving me from that weird fucking metaphor.
Part of my job description. This was a really, really good villain. A lot of the criticism this movie gets, look it up, is not Two Nerds podcast material.
No, it's very dark and negative.
But some of the criticism this movie gets, specifically about Ultron, I want to address. I saw a lot of people online talk about how he wasn't a good villain because he wasn't scary enough. I don't think you understand comic books very well.
I don't think you understand villainy very well.
He doesn't. If he was just, Mwahaha, I destroy the world. That's not a good villain.
Well, and I think what people were expecting when they were read Ultron, especially people, maybe even people who read the comics, but especially people who don't, is more of a cold, unthinking, uncaring, unstoppable force. Not unlike the villain from Thor 2. Doctor Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who.
I love the character. I can't think of his name for the life of me. But instead they got Loki's even cockier cousin, and I think they wanted something that was more. Or expected, maybe not wanted, but expected something that was more sinister.
What they got was evil Tony Stark. What they wanted was Ronan the Deceiver.
Yeah.
And I think evil Tony Stark's the better villain for this movie.
I think he was a better villain in general. I
don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I not from actual Ronan. From what that Ultron would have been.
Oh, okay. I was about we were about to have a nerd fight.
I'd have to do the math on that one. I'd have to run some fucking numbers. We'd have to Maypack that one out and see what happened. But fucking Ultron, man. He's A+.
That was a very good portrayal. I am sad that villain is done because he is, but. I could have. You're right. I could have used some more because it was good. I could have used some more of his dialogue. Yeah. His monologues are usually very serious, and those were also good. But he had good. It's rare you come across a villain because even Loki was, he makes jokes, but they're smarmy douche jokes that you weren't intended to laugh at. You're intended to go, fuck you. Fucking Ultron was actually legit funny.
Oh yeah, he cracked some lines.
I'm glad you asked, because I'd like to take this moment to describe my evil plan.
Yeah, I could wax about this character for a while. I have the time.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep it succinct because there are a couple other things I want to talk about. But there were comparisons I made directly after we saw the film. He reminded me of a couple of people from other things. In part, Garrus. Clearly, Garrus is not evil, but the way his mouth moves, the way his face is, the voice effect they used on him, some of those jokes, very Garrus. But in terms of his presence and his goals and his... presence was really the best word to use there. He reminds me so much of Saren from Mass Effect again.
Think Saren's gravitas with Garrus's lighter-hearted moments.
And, I mean, I doubt they actually drew inspiration from that, but if they did, good choices, because it really made a strong character performance. Just incredible stuff. I loved the way they used his duplicates, his Legion, and, like, there wasn't this weird charge-up moment between them. He was just like, I'm in this one now. What are you gonna do?
Not really much.
No.
Deal with it. I love there was a moment when he was monologuing to Black Widow. He, middle of the monologue, murdered his own duplicate so that he could keep monologuing after ripping the other duplicate apart because it looked really cool.
Yeah.
And you could tell he was just doing it to fuck with her and because it looked cool.
Yeah, he was cool as fuck. And just a lot of his little deliveries. He had so much personality. Like, from the second he shows up, that's a character I would have been so pleased with myself to have written. I don't say that about a lot of characters.
You really don't.
That's not, like, he seems exactly in my wheelhouse of what I would write, and if I did write him, I would never stop crowing about it. Just brilliant execution. And, I mean, I think it's fair to move on from there.
I love that they very much played up the Captain as the leader of the Avengers. They even completely lampshade one time. Maria Hill says something along the lines of, tells Stark they're all set up. She says, all set up, boss. And he, like, completely shuts that down. No, he's the boss. I just pay for everything and design everything and make everyone look cooler. Which is perfect dynamics from movie Tony Stark, and really sells that in that movie, Captain is the boss. Captain America leads the Avengers, which he does, because he's the leader of the Avengers. I love that they sell throughout the movie that's where Captain America wants to be. He wants to be in the fight, fighting the good fight.
I was glad that Cap took a back seat. I love him.
Well, actually, he didn't. He had the most screen time in the movie.
Really?
Of all the Avengers, he had the most screen time.
That's very interesting, because it felt like, story-wise, he had a back seat. He might have had the most lines, the most screen time, but...
He was enabling other stories.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He didn't feel like... It didn't feel like the Captain America movie. They really balanced the character time well. You said you read a review that said it was jumbled and there was just too much going on. No.
And that's what I was afraid of before this movie came out. I was afraid this movie was going to be jumbled. It was going to be too busy. It was going to have too many characters, too many plots, too much, and it was just going to feel rushed. And I can firmly say that I was happily wrong about that.
It was a very smooth movie.
But yeah, like I read a breakdown. Someone had gone in, because interns have nothing but time on their hands, and broken down minute by minute the breakdown. Captain America had the most screen time of all the Avengers, followed by Tony. Tony was next. And I can't remember who was after that. It was either like Clint or Black Widow and Hulk, like very close to one another. Then the twins, then Vision.
Right on. I like that they set up Lots of stuff for Black Panther
They mentioned Wakanda!
by name. And I didn't realize this at the time because I wasn't paying any fucking attention. The cool dude whose arm got ripped off is Claw.
Yeah.
And it just escaped me. Just boot.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically a cameo in this movie.
Yeah.
But
He's a cool cameo. I like that actor a lot.
it sets him up to be, the thing that he is.
Yeah.
And, oh my god, they mentioned Wakanda by name, and my nerd joy, it was too much. Too much, listener.
So fucking hyped for that Black Panther movie.
Oh, I love how they quietly sold that Wakanda's completely hardcore. Because,
Yeah. Because, like, all the principal characters who are badasses are like, fucking Wakanda? What?
Because in the movie, a guy has a bunch of vibranium, like a bunch of it. And they figure it out because he has a brand on his neck. And it's, oh, what's that brand? Came to find out it's the brand for Thief from Wakanda. And, like, Tony Stark drops his fudge.
Yeah.
He's like, wait, he got it on Wakanda?
Okay, I'm laughing at something in my head here. I'm going to try to paint a word picture for you, listener. I want you to imagine, first of all, Tony Stark carrying an actual tray of fudge. Here's about Wakanda. Drops all of the fudge. Banner keeps talking about, yeah, he left Wakanda with all of the vibranium. And then in Harry, did you put your name into the Goblet of Fire Angry Door mode, rushes up to him and says, did he take the vibranium? Does he have the vibranium? It was, woo, not as funny for you as it was for me, I'm sure. But I'm enjoying it over here.
The rest of what we have to say is fairly, what the rest of what I have to say would be fairly gushy, because I don't have a lot to criticize about this movie.
It was solid.
This movie was solid. I don't really have a wealth to gush about either, because it was...
One can only say so much about Ultron.
I mean, I could just start quoting the movie.
Well, yeah, but I don't think either of us are really hype enough to do that. And that's something I've noticed. I would say this was a much better put-together movie than the Ninja Turtles film, the most recent one.
Right.
But I left that film feeling much more excited.
Because it was such a surprise that it was good.
Well, and it was fun. This movie... I don't think this movie's necessarily fun. I had a good time watching it, but it's not Guardians of the Galaxy, like we said earlier. It's not a fucking rip-roaring adventure, and you're like, yeah, things!
Yeah, you're right. It's a good movie.
Yeah,
in
quality.
the same vein as Winter Soldier. That becomes a much more apt comparison because it has the same kind of tonality to it,
Sure.
and really follows in the events of Winter Soldier very closely, and it's a very, not a similar movie, but a similar enough in tone and in quality that I think it's a great comparison.
Oh, I do remember something else that we wanted to comment on that you brought up first when we were talking earlier, and that's how well they explained all of the missing characters and what's been going on in the meantime.
Like Natalie Portman's character from Thor, and Gwyneth Paltrow's character from Iron Man, and they explain them. They take a little exposition dump at the beginning of the movie during the party scene before it becomes time to try and lift Thor's hammer, where other people will ask the Avengers where their love interests are. Someone asks Thor where his lady friend is, Jane. Took me a second to remember that. Someone asks Tony where Pepper is, and then those two get into a little I love my waifu fight over which one's better, at the end of which Thor literally says, Jane is better.
It was a fun little moment. And
somebody asked Steve about his love interest, Bucky.
But yeah, and that's what Falcon's been doing. He's been looking into the sweet, delicious Zemo.
Bucky has been missing, and Steve's been busy, taking down Strucker and the various Hydra things. He's been busy being an Avenger, so he couldn't look into it. So he sent his friend the Falcon after him. And
War Machine talks about what he's been doing in the meantime to show he's actually been up to shit. It's not necessary, and it's really nice.
Yep. It's the impetus of a couple different funny moments.
Sure.
It's that whole scenes where you get your Stan Lee cameo.
Yep.
It's a good Stan Lee cameo, credited as himself, if you notice.
That's funny.
Because he is actually a World War II veteran.
Yeah, that's funny. That was really... There are a lot of little tiny touches in this film that... You know, when we talked about the Ninja Turtles film, we were so pleased with all the touches that showed love and research into the Ninja Turtles. This showed a lot of respect for the viewer and the continuity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I appreciate that on a different level, but I do appreciate it a lot.
And it's become so standard with Marvel movies that I'm glad you pointed it out, because I wouldn't have. It's what I expect from a Marvel movie. I expect them to have that kind of deep respect for their own, not necessarily completely their own canon. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for instance, didn't. They don't give a shit about that show.
Actually, the reason they knew where the stick was in the first place was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right, but they don't mention that.
Well, no, because for whatever reason, Captain America isn't allowed to know that Phil Coulson is still alive.
No, none of the Avengers are.
Yeah, I guess so they keep avenging. If they found out they'd just stop, they'd be like, oh, well, we're done.
He's avenged.
He's avenged. We win. We avenged him so hard he came back to life. Good game. Good game, everyone. High fives all around.
I think it's because Joss Whedon was in charge of the movies and he killed Coulson for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to take away that emotional punch. Now that Joss is no longer in charge of the Avengers, maybe in Infinity War we see Coulson come back to the big screen.
I don't really care. I mean, he's a fun character. He's the only character I like on the show, but whatever.
I'm interested to see what happens. I would be interested to see the Avengers' reactions if they saw Phil.
I don't know. It might be better as a joke that never gets paid off, you know?
Yeah, it could be good that way, too. I just don't know.
Because it plays better in a series, and once you write it off, I mean, that's it. It's done.
It also helps keep the series grounded, because it explains why Iron Man isn't showing up every week to hang out with Phil.
Or when they come up against really bad threats, why they can't just call in the Avengers.
Yeah, why can't I just call Captain America to come help me with this? Clearly, Captain America would be super helpful against this scary, scary thing. Ooh, or Thor. Thor would be nice. No, just Lady Sif.
Whatever, Lady Sif's all you need. She's all I need.
She's been on the show a couple times now.
Yeah, twice.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to watch the second episode she was in. Because I don't care about that show. Listener, I don't. I've watched more episodes of that show than I have ever wanted to.
It's okay. He doesn't have good opinions about everything, listener. It's fine.
Somewhere Ultimo Dragon agrees with me.
Ultimo Dragon's wrong, too.
You take that back!
Never!
Oh.
Come get me, Ultimo.
You're going to get Asai moonsaulted.
I will consider it a deep honor.
God, who wouldn't? I'm trying to dance around the thing you suggested I talk about on here, but
you know you want to.
I keep noticing the timer running down, and I'm like, God, I could fill 10 minutes on that easy. I really don't want to get deep into this, but I noticed something while I was watching this film, and at first it was like...
Side note, I've kind of been playing for time to try and get him to mention this, so you're welcome, listener. Go ahead.
As I was saying, I noticed it during the film, and at first I was kind of like, no. I mean, that's cute, White, but I think you're drawing correlations where there are none. And then pieces kept falling into place. And I preface this with the statement that if it were true, and I'm almost positive it's not, but if it were true, they filed off the serial numbers really well. But this movie has a lot of very specific parallels to Final Fantasy VI. Like, off the top of my head, there's a lot of cast members that you can kind of associate with the Final Fantasy VI characters. Throughout the film, somebody is holding the Terra Ball, and that is to say who, is reflecting her at this point. Like when Hulk goes berserk, Terra does like an exact thing, and then has to go away for a little while because she's not comfortable with herself.
He sent me a big long.
I don't 100% cleave to all of that anymore. But
Okay,
I've been rolling it around in my head. You know what? I'll post something somewhere. I'll post it on my Twitter. A link to it or something. A Google Doc, an image. I don't fucking know. But because you guys can follow me on Twitter, you can follow the boy too. It's right there in the description. I'll post it. And you can see the breakdown of all the things I've thought of. But especially a lot of Ultron's dialogue. And the fact that he makes a floating island. And then wants to destroy everything because fuck it. Really reminds me a lot of Kefka. Obviously, he's not a clown, but he is a funny guy. And there are specific lines he says that parallel specific lines Kefka says pretty strongly. I have to assume it's a coincidence, because what other nerdlinger besides me would do this? I know there are other obsessed people out there, but, like, they're impossible to find.
The chances that the guy who wrote that script, because I don't think Joss Whedon wrote the script.
Yeah, I think he was, like, the overseer.
Yeah, the chances of the guy who actually wrote that script having been a huge Final Fantasy VI nerd and going, ideas.
Yeah.
Would,
it just seems unlikely, especially when we're living in a world where when you go to read fan fiction, Final Fantasy VI is shoved in with the other first 5 Final Fantasies in most places.
It just seems statistically improbable.
Unlikely, yeah. Just very unlikely. But just the more I look at it, the more I'm seeing really easy comparisons there.
I was so happy about this theory. You guys, you don't even know. Listener, you don't even know. This as he sent me his big crazy manifesto-like string of text messages about it. And at the end, I believe I said a theory worthy of any Tumblr fan page.
Yeah. It's probably just bad shit. I believe the corollary joke I made honestly, just before we started the podcast, is the way Guillermo del Toro must have felt when he sat down to watch Evangelion after, he made Pacific Rim, and he had to have looked hollow-faced and gone, oh no, because he suddenly realized he actually ripped off everything.
All right. Actually, there was another thing I wanted to mention. I forgot to mention.
Oh, please.
This movie was filled with payoffs to shit they set up in the previous Avengers movie.
Oh God, yeah.
Which, in that movie, that movie caught a little flack for having a bunch of shit in it that looked like a setup to something else and that was never paid off. That's because they were saving that shit for the next movie. Thor's lightning being able to charge up Tony Stark's tech becomes a very integral part of the creation of the Vision. The shockwave that happens when Mjolnir hits Captain America's shield becomes a thing they do to knock over dudes. A bunch of there's other little shit that seems to mean nothing in the first movie, just be like a one-off or gag, is paid off in this movie, and I love that. That is such good filmmaking.
Maybe it's kind of subliminal stuff too. Maybe because I enjoy climaxes. Like, what's my favorite Pirates movie? The third one.
Which is one that catches shit for being basically a one long climax. Well, yeah, it's the climax to the whole series of movies, because that whole series of movies is one big ass movie.
Yeah, and that's kind of like Brandy's been watching Daredevil, and she likes it, but she's having a hard time getting into it. And I think it's because she's been watching it like one episode at a time. No, Daredevil's a big fucking movie. It's just a really fucking huge movie.
Gotta binge watch that shit.
I don't think you have to, but it helps a lot.
Which is a privilege that they have from the way they release stuff.
Sure. And maybe Avengers is going to be like that. Maybe after Infinity War Part 2, we'll be like, oh, it was one big-ass movie.
And I really, really hope so, to be honest, because that would make me super smug on the internet. And give me license to be super smug on the internet.
Which is really all he craves in life.
No, I crave being super smug everywhere, thank you very much.
Well, but in your hometown, it's best.
Yeah, it's always best when you win in your hometown.
Yeah, there's that part where they locked Ultron out of the internet, and he got all mad about it. All I could think of was you.
You locked me out of the internet? I'm gonna fuck you up.
To finish the joke I was making before the boy pleasantly interrupted me with more relevant shit. After after the guy who made Pacific Rim, I said it fine earlier, sat down and watched Evangelion and was like, oh no, I ripped it off. I imagine if you were to sit down, whoever actually wrote this, be it Joss or someone else, and had them play through Final Fantasy VI, their reaction would be, it's, wow. I really don't think it was a intentional thing. Just one of those sort of funny, weird things.
One of those, an odd coincidence, or series of coincidences. Well, to be fair, they were telling similar stories.
Yeah, they were. And, I mean, when you're telling a story like that, there are only so many tropes you have. However, I, again, key into the floating island thing. I mean, that's some specific-ass shit that don't happen a lot.
Yeah, you're telling like a Frankenstein's monster gone away storyline. There's got to be a floating island in it somewhere.
You're telling a tale of two brothers separated. At some point, there has to be a space whale.
It's got to happen.
Oh, space whales are fucking cool. But, yeah, I think, that really summarizes everything about Age of Ultron. Space whales are fucking cool.
No.
No?
Don't elaborate.
Doesn't have...
Don't elaborate.
Okay.
It's
right.
better. It's better just by itself.
They're good. All right. Space whales are fucking cool. And,
everything's better when nerds talk about it.
that's the thing that we say goodbye. Oh, I clicked the button.
Fuck it, let's go!